today we are wrapping up our series, Better Decisions, Fewer Regrets. And what I hope that we have seen is that there is a relationship between asking good questions and making good decisions. We believe that if you will ask, answer honestly, and act on the 5 questions that we're talking about in this series, you will make better decisions, and consequently, you will live with fewer regrets. Your life will be better. The lives of the people who look to you and depend on you, their lives will be better as well, because we're not the only ones that are impacted by our decisions, are we? And we are also not the only ones that are impacted by our regrets either. And today, our last question is a question about relationships. And asking, answering honestly, and acting on this question has the potential to enhance the quality of every single relationship that you have. It has the power to heal and restore relationships. Believe me, I would know. It has the power to reignite romance in a relationship. It has the power to give you back what you once had but maybe lost after some time. I mean, if an infomercial made that kind of a promise to you, you would buy the entire set, wouldn't you? Right? Like Kawasaki knives, you got a promise like that, you've gone out and bought the whole entire set. But here's the thing that I also feel like I have to be sure to say. Each of the previous questions that we have talked about have some degree of guaranteed return on investment, if you will. Right? You will always come out ahead if you are honest with yourself and if you write a story that you are proud to tell. Paying attention to that tension and doing the wise thing will always produce a measurable positive return. This question today, it doesn't come with that guarantee. I think it has greater power perhaps than all of the other questions combined. But there is no guarantee. And the reason that there's no guarantee is because today's question isn't about making your life better as much as it is about making someone else's life better, which could make your life better, but it might not. In fact, in many cases, it will mean not getting something that you really want. Now, as many of us know, Jesus' life was always pointing towards something new, right? He is constantly foreshadowing that something new was on the way, something that would replace much of the system that they were used to. And many thought that that would be political reform or something like that, but it would be so much greater than that. And when Jesus entered Jerusalem for what would be the last time, he would gather those that were closest to him, his disciples, and really, honestly, even the 12 disciples were still missing a little bit of what he was really about to do. I mean, some of them are preparing for the new positions that they want to have in this new, independent kingdom of Israel that they were certain was about to be reestablished. And so Jesus brings them all together, and he makes his intentions very clear. First, he tells them that he's going to be leaving. And this is a problem for most of them because while there was a great following that was coming along with them, with Jesus, there also were plenty of enemies. And Jesus drew crowds, and crowds had a tendency to keep the enemies away. And so how would they have a revolution if Jesus left? That was not going to work. But then he also tells them something that when I read these words this morning, I fear that it won't hit us quite as hard as it no doubt hit them. In fact, I think that quite understandably, when I read these words, you may be tempted to say, okay, like, we have heard this before, we get it, like, do you not have anything new for us today? But Jesus spoke these words, and we probably don't doubt that he actually said them. We probably don't doubt that they are true, but they don't filter our own words and actions the way that they really ought to. These words spoken by Jesus would guide his closest friends to become people who would turn the world completely upside down. These words, they should send us reeling. These words should knock us back in our seats a little bit. And when we consider the central points of our faith, the fact that we have a restored relationship with God because of the resurrection of Jesus, his death is actually an illustration of these words that he's about to say. And I'm convinced that these words don't hit us the way that they should. And the reason why sometimes we go looking for something more, we have this thought that there just has to be something deeper, there has to be something more that I'm looking for. The reason we do that is because we've never seen a crucifixion. We've never witnessed a man being flogged to the point where he wants to die, but he can't. Because the soldiers that are inflicting the pain on him, they know exactly when to stop. Not out of mercy, but because the goal was to inflict as much pain as possible. Death would have been merciful. But out of a desire to cause as much suffering as possible, they know exactly when to stop, just in time to keep him alive. And we've never seen someone choose days beforehand to lay down their life for an enemy. There just isn't anything deeper than that. So when I read these words that he said, I truly wish that we could hear them the way that they heard them. And I wish that we could think what they must have thought about when they witnessed what they would witness the next afternoon. But let's go for it anyway. Here are the words that he said. A new command I give you, love one another. And this wasn't simply another command. They had plenty of commands. They had more than enough laws to go around. See, this command, I feel like, often loses its strength because we're kind of conditioned to believe that this was just another command to add to, the Big Ten, and I'm not talking about a college football conference. We kind of are conditioned to think that, they had 600 plus laws, and this is just another one that goes on that list. But it wasn't. Remember, Jesus was replacing a lot of what was in place. This command will make it so that you don't even need the other ones. He says that the new command is to love one another. And some of them, like some of us, may have thought, well, that's not particularly new. We feel like we've heard this before. In fact, you've been saying it quite a bit. And honestly, Jesus probably could have looked at them and said, well, when we get this, we'll move on to something else. But the whole idea is that Jesus is not trying to get them, and he's not trying to get us to feel something. Typically, love is something that we kind of think is a feeling, like you feel love for someone or maybe you don't. He's not trying to get us to feel something. He is trying to get us to do something. And we know that because what he said next was so ridiculous that anyone who didn't mean it would not have said it. And anyone who wasn't willing to have it put to the test, they just simply wouldn't have said it. And he knew what was coming next. And what Jesus said next literally changed the world. It changed everything about the culture that they were in and the people who followed him and the way they operated. This is what he said after that. He said, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Jesus actually set himself as the standard for love. I mean, you think that you're being loving towards someone, then ask yourself, does my behavior match what Jesus did for those that he loved? And when you consider the decision to undergo the agonizing pain of crucifixion, to be put to death for all people whom he loved, but many of whom would not love him, that is the standard set for love. The old system that they were used to was, do unto others as they have done unto you. So if someone's nice to you, be nice to them back. But if they don't treat you particularly well, then maybe you don't have to be all that nice. And we're kind of taught that the new system is a little bit more of an ambiguous believe something, feel something, that kind of thing. But Jesus says you must love people the way I love them. Do unto others as I have done for them and for you. And Jesus, honestly, he could have pointed to every single one of them around the table and reminded them of the love and the mercy that he had shown to them, the grace that he had offered them. He could have reminded all of them of it. Remember, like Matthew, we talked about Matthew before, the tax collector that everybody hated, the thief for hire that stole from his own people and gave to the foreign, unwanted government that ruled over them. Jesus could have been like, hey, people don't really like it when you follow them around, do they? Like they figure that you're probably up to something or you want something from them. But what did I tell you? I told you to come and follow me. I showed you that I loved you and cared about you. And he could have told stories about every single one of them, right? And just pointed to them around the table. Oh, you remember what I've done for you. You remember what I've done for you. You remember that thing, the situation over by the lake. You remember what I did there? He could have done that. But instead, he went to the cross and he showed them what he was willing to do. He demonstrated the love that he was telling them to have for others. The day after he said these words, he put on a demonstration of love that would take their breath away. And it would take their sin away. But the issue for us maybe is that it also took something else away. It also took away all the excuses that we have to not love the way that he loves. See, he didn't leverage the fact that he was God to make them follow him. No, he inspired them to love by loving them. This is why our fifth and final question is, what does love require of me? And I don't honestly think that I need to explain any further why Jesus followers in particular need to ask themselves this question when making decisions. I mean, someone does something that you don't like, that you don't approve of, that you wouldn't do. What does love require of me? And it might be really difficult. Sometimes it's really not all that hard. But if you apply it, asking this question could change your life in some of the most amazing ways. You know, Andy, in his book where he talks about all of these questions, he says that his mentor would often ask him, what do you hope I don't ask you about, when they would get together? And Andy even talks about it in the book about how, like, that he felt like that was kind of cheating. You know, you're supposed to have to, like, work to uncover those deep, like, difficult things to talk about. You can't just come in and be like, hey, what's the thing you don't want me to know about? Right? That's not fair. And so, but that question made me think, like, what if someone had asked me that question? What would I say? And if I was actually going to answer honestly, up until recently, it would have been my relationships with my extended family. You know, it's just kind of one of those things, right? It's like, just don't ask me about it. I really don't want to talk about it. It's complicated. The relationships they are what they are, right? Like, it's never going to get any better. Like, please just don't ask me about it. I don't want to talk about it. Now, I'm going to explain a little bit more what I mean by that. But first, I would like to show you guys this story. Here is a story of someone who experienced a situation that was similar to mine. Let's take a look.
Hi, my name's Nathan. Over the course of many years, my relationship with my brother became strained. Not exactly sure how it got to that point, but it's where we were. We didn't talk. We didn't see each other than maybe a couple holidays throughout the year. From my perspective, it was a series of misunderstandings that stacked upon each other, and it got to that point. But at the end of the day, I didn't have a relationship with my brother for many years. Something I'm not proud of, that's for sure. But I didn't know what else to do. I had a family that kept me busy, that helped me not to think about it very often. Or maybe I didn't want to think about it so that I didn't feel the pain of the situation. I got married when I was 20, and I'd been married for about 17 years when my world came crashing down. My wife told me she didn't want to be married any longer, and she left. There I was in the middle of a pivotal circumstance. When the dust had settled, I was alone. There were people that I somehow had to tell this impossible news to, and that included my brother. Honestly, that time in my life was a complete blur, so I'm not sure how long I waited, but I knew I had to talk to my brother. I knew I had to talk to him about what was going on in my life at that point. I don't remember how long I waited to pick up the phone, but what I do remember are these things. My first weekend alone, my brother came and spent the night with me at my house. A couple weeks later, when I was going to be alone again, I was welcomed and went and spent the afternoon and evening with my brother and his family. As I was missing my family, that time spent with them and my nieces and nephew playing with them was just the distraction I needed in my life at that moment. During this time, we also spent many hours on the phone talking through the mess that my life had become. I was able to share things with my brother that I probably wouldn't share with other people. I was able to share my feelings and talk through things with him without judgment. On top of that, now we speak regularly. We are active in each other's lives, in each other's families' lives, and it's made a huge difference. Don't wait for a pivotal circumstance to pick up the phone, to have that conversation. I don't know how that conversation will go for you. I don't know what the result will be. But I do know that our Heavenly Father is going to be happy with His children who took that step to follow what He's asking you to do.
So I would like to introduce you all to my brother, Nathan. You know, here's the thing, like I didn't want to talk about it because there was pain there, right? There was tension there. This kind of defeating feeling of that relationship is what it is. It's never going to get any better. And then weeks and months, they turn into years of strained relationship. And then, you know, the unthinkable happens. My brother's life, it begins to change. In his words, it begins to unravel and fall apart. And honestly, I can't imagine. I still, even to this day, I can't imagine being in his shoes at that moment. Yeah, he had our parents to talk to, which is good, and I'm grateful for that, but he's got one sibling, that's it. And we weren't close. In fact, we weren't really talking all that much at all at that point. And I'm so glad that his answer to the relationship question was, I have to call my brother. I have to let him know what is going on in my life. There's a lot of things, a ton of things that could have kept him from picking up that phone. But I'm really glad that he did. And of course, you know, I would love to take credit for just being this really amazing guy who had all the right things to say. I know for a fact that I did not. But you guys know this. There's something about pivotal life circumstances that just have a tendency to outweigh everything else, right? It was clear in that moment that all of the stuff, all of the things and words, situations that had contributed to the breakdown of our relationship, they didn't matter quite the same as they did before that phone call. So first, I want to say thank you, Nate. I want to say thank you for being willing, one, to come here and share your story with us. I think a lot of people can probably relate to the fact that a relationship can deteriorate for all kinds of different reasons. I think you and I both would say the biggest part of it for us was just not tending to the relationship. It became easy to focus on other things and just try not to think about it, right? But I think that people would probably prefer to hear what has changed. So what so far has been the result of us reconnecting? What do you look forward to?
I think the biggest thing is our kids. So even last weekend, I brought my boys down and we hung out for the day with their cousins. And so I remember growing up and spending, especially holidays, but even other times with my cousins, you know, and it was just something that I always looked forward to, and it's something that I probably didn't realize then that I do now, looking back and all the good times, just playing with your closest friends or your cousins. And so they get that, they look forward to it, and they just ask all the time, when are we going to go see them? When are we going to go see them? And so making those opportunities, it's just a lot easier now.
Yeah, I know our kids, they really enjoy it, they love it, and, they would ask, and then we wouldn't see each other very much, and so they kind of just stopped asking, right,
Yeah.
eventually. And now it's like, now that they get to see each other again, it's always this like, are Wesley and Elijah coming? It's like, I don't know where that came from. Like, they're not. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Yep.
But
Same.
it's just every weekend. It's like, when are we going to see them again? And I love that. I love
Yep.
that they get to experience that.
Yep.
I know that I have also thought of the fact that some of the people that have had the biggest, have had really huge influences in my life were uncles and cousins. I'm just really glad that my kids have a few more people in that space that that they can look up to,
Yep.
that they'll be able to have those types of opportunities like what you and I both had.
Yep. Yeah, I think another piece is our parents. I think I can't even imagine what they were going through during those years. I know specifically on a mom, mom,
For sure.
It was hard on her, it was hard. She didn't know what to do. She's caught in between,
Right.
and she tried to make everything better because that's what we as parents do.
Yeah.
And she couldn't. It took two grown adults who needed to do the job, and
Right.
so I think it's eased a lot for her too. I can't even imagine how happy she is now.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree. And I know that I'm not necessarily happy to be able to have this in my back pocket, but I do think about the caution that I'll be able to give to my kids, and I know you probably think the same about how important it is to maintain good relationships with your siblings. Unfortunately, fortunately, depending on how you look at it, right, the fact that I can speak from a place of experience and say, don't let a relationship just kind of, don't let these little things fester and let a relationship kind of just fade away until you can barely even remember what it's like to have that person in your life. Just don't do that.
Yeah, my boys are less than a year apart, so they butt heads constantly.
A little bit?
And so, just a little bit. But, so I know it's nothing compared to what we've gone through, and so I emphasize the importance of their brotherly relationship. And so I know that as they get older, I'll continue to be able to have more in-depth conversations of experiences that will hopefully make a difference for them too.
For sure. And I know that you and I both have, we'll call it complicated feelings about, the fact that this extremely difficult thing in your life in particular also brought about a really great thing in us rebuilding, our relationship through that. I still have really complicated feelings about that because I hate that you had to experience what you've had to experience, and I've even thought in my own mind, would I trade, the ability for you and I to have a relationship for you to have back that? And it's just that thought in my mind goes like, it's just, you can't do anything with that, right? Like, I can't. But I'm so glad that in the midst of all of that, you reached out and that you opened up the door for us to be able to communicate again, because you could have easily, shut people out and shut down, and I wouldn't have been able to blame you for doing it. I really couldn't. But you didn't do that, and you came and you shared your story with us, which is even next level, to be honest. But what do you think about that? Because I know those feelings are somewhat complicated.
Yeah, it's definitely the hardest thing I've ever gone through, and when you called, and honestly, it's not something that I even had to think about. I knew that I had to share. Like, I don't think God's allowing me to go through such a thing to not share my story. I think He's going to put people in front of my path over the years that He wants me to share with, to share my experiences, to be able to point them towards Him. I've leaned into God more in the last couple of years than I've followed God all my life, but it's something completely different that makes you focus on Him, and my relationship with Him is deeper, and I know that He's calling me to have conversations with people that it might not be easy. It might not be easy for me to remember these. Even just watching the video stirs up all the emotions in me over again.
Yeah.
So it's not easy, but it's real, and I know that He wants me to help others as I'm given the opportunity.
Yeah, and I know that you will continue to have opportunities to share your story and with people that are experiencing similar things, and like relational people that He created us to be, because He wants us to be a benefit to each other. He wants us to inspire each other and to carry each other along in our journeys with Him. He wants us to do that. He made us that way, and I know you'll continue to have opportunities to do that.
Yep.
Do you have any other thoughts or anything else you want to say before we finish things up?
No, I just think it's always worth it. Even like we said before, we don't know what the result's going to be, but it's always going to be worth it following God's prodding and leading in your life, for sure.
For sure. All right, well, thank you. So I'm going to pray for us really quickly. The band's actually going to come out. They're going to lead us in a song, and then I'm going to come back to kind of wrap things up a little bit here in just a minute. So let me just pray for us, if you don't mind. God, I thank you so much for everything that you have done in my life and Nate's life too, and continuing to prove to us how you work through even hard, difficult situations. Nate's life is certainly a testimony at this point of pouring himself into you and saying that is first and foremost the most important relationship. And I believe that you are strengthening him as a result of that and just drawing him closer to you and creating an amount of impact and influence that is beyond what I can even begin to comprehend. And but God, I thank you for having a restored relationship with my brother. For a long time, I would have never even imagined what it would be like to have that, because it just has gotten so far and so out of mind. And just like you seem to do so often, you blow my mind away and make possible things that I think are impossible. You make things that I think could possibly be good far better than I could have even imagined. And so just thank you for that. And God, you are our example for how we ought to handle relationships and how we ought to love people. And we are imperfect, and we are, you know pretty well that we are not always real good at that. So help us. God, we need your strength. We need that part of you that caused you to be able to love so unconditionally and so perfectly. We need that in order to be able to do it, Lord. So please just help us and walk through these situations with us. But give us the courage and the strength to reach out, even if it's today about a relationship that needs to be restored. Help us to be willing to take that step and show love and do it. God, we love you. We are so thankful to you for everything that you have done. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen.
As we sing this next song, I'm going to invite you to stand if you want to stand. Sit and listen to the words if you want to listen. Or maybe there's somebody you need to reach out to. Maybe there's some business that needs to be done. This would be the time to do that. This would be the time you're allowed to be on your phone in church. Send that message. Or if you need to step out in the lobby and make a call, that's okay too. This is the time to take action and take that next step to what God is calling you to do. So let's sing this together.
Were creation suddenly articulate with 1,000 tongues to lift one cry, from north to south and east to west, we'd hear Christ be magnified. Were the whole earth echoing his eminence, his name would burst from sea and sky, from rivers to the mountain tops, we'd hear Christ be magnified. Christ be magnified, let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified. magnified in me. When every creature finds its inmost melody, and every human heart its native cry, more than one enraptured hymn of praise will sing, Christ be magnified. Oh, Christ be magnified. Let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified at the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. I won't bow to idols, I'll stand strong and worship you. And if it puts me in the fire, I'll rejoice 'cause you're there too. I won't be formed by feelings, I hold fast to what is true. If the cross brings transformation, then I'll be crucified with you. 'Cause death is just the doorway into resurrection life. If I join you in your suffering, then I'll join you when you rise. When you return in glory with all the angels and the saints, my heart will still be singing and my song will be the same. Oh, Christ be magnified. Let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified. Let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me.
Well, as you can imagine, I ask myself the question, what does love require of me, quite a bit these days. And in the situation with my brother, the answer was, is going to sound overly simple. Just be a brother, right? Like, I mean, I don't know what that means necessarily to every single person, but I just, my brother needed his brother to be around. And if I try to imagine being in his shoes and feeling what he was feeling, I really can't even begin to comprehend. And I think about, like, where would I go? What would I do? Who would I talk to? I know that I would feel like I had nobody. Like, don't leave him with nobody, It's absolutely a shame, something that I am regretful of, that he had to experience something like that to make us both come to this realization. But again, as you guys know, pivotal circumstances, they have a tendency to do that. So, what does love require of me? I absolutely wish that I had been willing to ask the question and answer honestly. And I absolutely wish that I had been willing to act on that question much sooner in my relationship with him. See, asking ourselves good questions, they actually set us up for good decisions. And I didn't know about this stuff back then, right? But asking ourselves these questions, it will help propel us toward better decisions. I believe that. So let's go back and let's look at some of these really quick, right? First, we began by asking, am I being honest with myself really? Am I really being honest with myself? This determines if you are prepared to get anything from the following questions, right? If you are not willing to be honest with yourself, if you're not able to be honest with yourself about where you are and why you're thinking about doing what it is you're thinking about doing, then the rest of the questions will be relatively useless. I know that kind of undermines the idea of asking the other questions, because I do still think that you will benefit from asking them. In fact, like I talked about last week, I think if you're at least willing to ask them, then you're going to have to make another decision about whether you're willing to act on it or not. That's something you'll have to deal with yourself. But then we looked at, what story do I want to tell? Consider how to make the decisions that you're making produce a story that you are proud to tell. If you are thinking of making a decision that you would feel the need to keep from people, even just certain people, then it is not something that you are proud to tell. And it is probably not a decision that you should be making. And then we said to consider, is there a tension that deserves my attention, right? When everything else seems to check out, everybody is kind of nodding along and saying, yeah, I think this is a good decision, like, let's go forward, but there is something not settling right in your heart and in your mind. Pause and pay attention to that tension. It means something. It is there for a reason. As Jesus followers, we recognize that this could possibly be, depending on what it is it's telling you to do, this could be God trying to tell you something. The Holy Spirit trying to speak into your life. So stop and take hold of the moment and think about, what is that tension there for? Where is it coming from? And take time to consider it. And last week, we talked about a question that I think is really, really important, and that is, in light of your past experiences, your current circumstances, and your future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do, right? Something can be legal, it can be acceptable, it can be permissible, and not wise all at the same time. And unwise decisions are gateway decisions that lead to regret. I promise you. Like, just please take my word for that one and don't test it, all right? And then ask yourself, what does love require of me? If you've been able to rationalize and explain away an unwise behavior, this question kicks all of those rationalizations to the curb. It closes every single loophole, right? That whole well, but the Bible doesn't say anything about that. That rationalization does not work with this question. It might be okay. I might even feel justified or vindicated in doing what I've done. But would a loving person have done that? Would you have treated somebody that you love that way? Throw all of that out. Did Jesus treat the people that he loves that way? And please, please, take it from me and from Nate. Don't wait for something terrible to happen to wake you up. Just don't do it. When you're not sure what you should do, ask yourself this question and then do unto others as God through Christ has done for you. And then in case you're sitting out there today or you're listening, you're watching online and you're wondering, well, what exactly do you mean by love, right? That word means so many different things to so many different people. And even in Scripture, you've got a bunch of different Hebrew and Greek words that we all translate as love. They can't possibly all mean the same thing. Please define that word for me. Well, fortunately, we do have a bit of a definition for what love is. And this comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. You've probably seen it and read it before. In fact, I'm not even going to put the entire verse up here. You should go to 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 7, and read these for yourself. But look at all of these descriptive words. Take a second to read those. Patience, kindness. Love doesn't have envy. It doesn't have pride. It doesn't have selfishness. There's no anger. There's no record keeping. Love rejoices in the truth. It protects. It trusts. It hopes. It perseveres. What does this require of me? And parts of this will be, for some of you, will be really easy. And other parts of this might be a little more difficult. But all of it is what love is. Because this is how people will know if you are a follower of Jesus or not. Now, maybe you're like, well, where did that come from? Hold on a second. Let's go back really fast to John 13, because we didn't finish the whole thought when we were there earlier. Again, right? Jesus says, a new command I give to you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. And by this, your love, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples. And just in case you were unsure what he was referring to, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. See, our devotion to God is authenticated by our love for the people around us. That's how people will know if you love God. People that you like, people that you don't like, people that don't like you, people that don't agree with you, people that don't live like you, people that don't do the stuff that you do, friends and enemies alike. Jesus demonstrated his love for all of them. And then he told us to do the same. So if you ask, answer honestly, and then act on the answer, you'll be on your way to a better decision and a life of far fewer regrets. Thank you all so very much for joining us for this series. I really appreciate it. It's been, let's be honest, right? It's been difficult, but it's also been really great at the same time. And so I am just really grateful for you being here and watching and listening. And you're not going to want to miss the next series that we're starting next week either, because What is the Point? It begins next week, and you're not going to want to miss a single week of it. So take care. Have a wonderful day. I love you guys so much, and we will see you next week. See ya.